a encantadora e hospitaleira capital de Minas Gerais.
Hello. So, the first thing that I wanted to say is that as I'm speaking about my story, you really want to be listening not for the story of Christopher Howe, because my story isn't unique to me. It's the story of many people, the people that I encountered along my travels, along my journeys, but it's a universal story. It's a story about all of us. It's a story about what's possible for all of us when we're willing to take a great risk, when we're willing to step outside of our comfort zone, outside of what we already know, into what is unknown, into a place that might not be safe for the benefit of other people. So this is the story of my life for the past few years. I'll begin because, like somebody said earlier, these stories, our lives don't really have a beginning or an end, but we need some place to start. So I'll start when I was living in Germany back in 2004. And I had a great life. I was a high school teacher in Germany. And at the same time, there were certain things that were going on in my life that weren't so good. I was in the middle of a divorce. I had 2 children that I loved dearly. But I was in a depressed place. And I had recently graduated from university. I have a degree in history and another degree in theology. And I was depressed in a way because during school, I realized that things like the Bible and these sacred texts were written by men. And I thought that somehow God wasn't involved in the process. And I became disillusioned with religion and with spirituality for a few years, until I found it again when I was living in Germany. A friend introduced me to a book by Paulo Coelho, who many of you know, who wrote the book The Alchemist. And this book reminded me of something inside of myself, something that I had forgot, something that was part of who I am, about being on the spiritual path. So I remembered my deep love when I was in college for the country of Ethiopia, and how much I'd wanted to go there since I was 17 years old. And after reading the book, The Alchemist, I decided to buy a plane ticket to Ethiopia, although it was too expensive. I didn't have enough money to get there, so I flew instead to Kenya. And on my way to Ethiopia through Kenya, I met 2 film producers on a very remote island near the coast of Somalia. And these film producers, they're special film producers indeed. They produced the movies American Psycho and Virgin Suicides. I don't know if you guys have seen these movies here. But they took me into their house, and I started working for them as a writer, developing the script for a Paulo Coelho adaptation called Veronica Decides to Die. So it was very interesting. One of the first lessons that I learned was when we take these great leaps of faith to go on our journeys, to go towards our destiny, how all the right people arrive just at the right times when we need them. So I met these people right in this moment, and I lived with them for about 2 months in Africa, and they went back to Los Angeles, and I continued on my way to Ethiopia, where I didn't necessarily find what it was that I was looking for. I'd gone on this great journey to go to this other country, to go someplace else, and I didn't find it. I'm not quite sure what it was that I was looking for in that moment, but it wasn't there. So I ended up back in Germany, and my friends from Kenya, the film producers, called me and asked me to come finish developing the script for them in Los Angeles. Veronica Decides to Die. So I flew out to Los Angeles, and we finished the script. They went back to Africa, and I stayed for 4 months in a beautiful home right on the Venice beach in a house designed by Frank Gehry. It was beautiful. They came back, and their manager quit, and I stepped right into his position, and I started managing film companies, something that I'd never done before. I had no idea how to do, and I've much respect for all the people producing this event and all this stuff, because I know what goes into it. They put me into a very nice house in the Los Angeles hills, and where I lived for the next year. My children came to live with me as well, and at some point during that time, I had my children go back to live with their mom. They were very young, and I thought that they needed to be with her. So they went to live with their mother, and about a month later, I was in the mountains above Los Angeles when a very strange thing happened. I was in the middle of a ceremony, and as part of this ceremony, there's a point for meditation. And it was very Zen-like in this meditation where you clear the mind of all your thoughts. And the best way to do that is by just allowing whatever's there to be and not to add meaning to the thoughts that come into your mind, right? To get to this place of silence and of simple being and presence. And as I was there inside of this ceremony, in the middle of this meditation, I went into a visionary state. This might sound crazy. It sounds crazy to me. But the case was, I went into this visionary state where I saw myself walking from Los Angeles, first through the deserts of northern Mexico, just walking by myself, simply with time alone and with time with God. In the next scene, I saw myself walking through the mountains of the Sierra Madre of Mexico, being helped by people along the way. And I realized as I was walking that I was in the middle of this vision and that I shouldn't be having it, right? That I should somehow stop it. It was crazy. It was nuts. There's no way I was going to be walking through Mexico. So I stopped it. And I returned back to the place where I was, and I went back into my meditation. And as soon as I did that, I was transported back into this vision, where again I was walking through the mountains of Mexico, through Guatemala, through the forests of Panama, through Colombia, through Ecuador, through Peru, ending up eventually in this place in the middle of the Amazon forest. And as I was going through this journey in my vision, I kept cutting it off, saying, no, this is crazy, I'm not going to do this, this is nuts, right? Then I decided at some point that I was going to just allow this vision to be, just to allow it to happen. Before I came into the ceremony, I prayed. I was looking for something to set me back on my spiritual path. And I asked God just to be of service. And I realized during this vision that this vision was the answer to my prayer to be of service. I wasn't quite sure how yet. So I took it on that this was something that was actually possible, right? And this is something that you guys want to hear, right? When we have an idea for a project, when we have an idea for a place in our communities, in our lives where we can make a difference, oftentimes the first thing that comes to us are the borders, the blocks, the barriers, or, oh, I can't do that, that's not me, maybe I'm not a scientist, or maybe I'm not a filmmaker, or maybe, you know, I'm not this or that. We put all these borders and limitations on what it is that we can do. None of them are true, okay? Who you are is that anything is possible in your life, and you can make a big difference, just one person, especially when it's in contribution to the world around you. And that's the metaphor for what it was that I was about to do. So the first step after taking it on and saying that this is indeed possible, and okay, I'll look at this, is that I had to tell people about it. I had to make a verbal declaration that I was walking to Brazil. So I had to tell my bosses, I had to tell my mom, I had to tell my family that I'm actually leaving this mansion that I lived in Los Angeles, and I'm going to live like a vagabond on the road. I didn't even know how I was going to do it. I had no plan. No plan, none, just that I was doing it. So for the next 2 weeks, I was very excited telling people about this new possibility that was available for me, something that was so crazy that I couldn't have sat down and thought, this is what I'm going to do. This makes a lot of sense, right? It made no sense at all, and that was kind of the beauty of it. 2 weeks later, there was another ceremony, and I went into the ceremony praying, asking for guidance because I had no idea what I was doing. And again, I saw another vision, the second of this series, where, again, this is going to sound crazy, but I saw a vision of Mary in the sky over the Sea of Cortez. And she didn't say anything to me, but only her hands were like this. And I saw myself handing out blank pieces of paper to the people that I met on the road, who wrote down whatever they wanted to write. They wrote down prayers to complete their past. It was a moment, a perfect moment with a perfect stranger, someone who they didn't know and with whom they didn't have to pretend. And they could just be totally honest with. And that they can finish the past so that they can see into the future this expanded horizon where there were no limits, where they weren't dragging a limited past based on what they know. Maybe those experiences were good, maybe they weren't, but if we're still just going based on what it is that we know, we're just going to keep creating more of that into the future, right? So if you can clear your past, even if it's just momentarily, and look fresh into the horizon without limitation, and see what's possible there. And again, outside of fear or trying to make it or just survival. You know, survival is a game that we all lose, right? So ultimately, we're all going to lose it. And if you can get over your fear of death, most other things like public speaking, for example, that most people are very afraid of, myself included, if you can, you know, these are irrational fears. And it's very easy and very simple to take a step out and just to go through it. You know, courage is the art of having fear, but doing it anyway, right? So you're going to have all these fears, all these blocks about why you can't do the things that you want to do, and do it anyway. Be who you are in contribution to the people around you and to your communities. So once I said yes to this project, everything started lining up perfectly. I thought, again, you know, that, okay, I can make it. I'm going to do this on my own, right? But of course, that doesn't work. And it's no fun to, like, make it. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to force my way through the Amazon forest to Brazil. That just doesn't happen. But naturally, once I declared this, all the pieces started aligning themselves perfectly, collaborating towards my reaching my goal deep in the Amazon. So soon after, I met a filmmaker. His name was Mickey Willis from Elevate Films, who decided to promote my project through a documentary where the plan was we were going to raise $10,000 that would fund my trip. And it was great. It was a platform kind of like this. And I was able to speak my project. And the problem was we only made $800. So I didn't know how I was going to do it. And yet I did it anyway. So I'm very grateful for Mickey Willis and for Elevate Films for giving me the mouthpiece, because this is the most important thing. You have to share what you're going to do, and then you have to do it, right? So it does no good to have the idea sitting up here if you're not sharing it, which is one of the reasons why I love TED, because we're sharing these ideas. But also you have to take a step. What is it that you can do today to turn these dreams, these visions, into reality? So this is what I want to really encourage all of you to be able to do. So my project, what it symbolized in part, was the possibility of people getting clear, of people removing the confines of the past and be able to step into a future that was limitless and free. And to be able to see through this person walking, this gringo, that if he can walk from Los Angeles to Brazil, what else is possible for me in my life, right? Like anything is possible. So of course, the journey is filled with temptations, with breakdowns. Anytime we're on the road of life, for sure, we're going to have flat tires. Okay, the car's going to break down. We're going to feel sick. A great mentor of mine once said, and I don't know if the joke will carry here in Brazil, but sometimes you just don't feel like doing something. You said you were going to do something, but you just don't feel like it, right? Well, in California, we have a lot of Mexican food, or Tex-Mex food, and we have this thing called a burrito, which sometimes they're not always so good, right? And he said something once. He said, my feelings can change with a bad burrito, right? Am I really going to let this stop what it is that I'm up to in life, right? So when you're feeling scared or when you're feeling these things, continue to be up to it no matter what. That's the idea, right? So also, this is the art of writing down your prayers, or writing whatever it was. Even atheists took advantage of this project and were writing down stuff, right? It was a cathartic opportunity for them. The idea is to when you give your word, this is your promise, your promesa, right? In the art of Catholic pilgrimage. Yeah? You give your word to something, and then you do it, right? But it's not in the realm of right or wrong or good or bad or evil or anything like this, okay? So Aristotle was the first person who used the term harmatia, which is where in the New Testament we have the idea for sin. It's when you have a bow and arrow and you have a target and you shoot the arrow for this target, right? But you miss the mark. And there's no morality involved in this at all, right? We had a promise and we didn't keep our promise, right? We had a promise to our wives, to our children, to our communities. And somewhere along the way, for whatever reasons, because the very fact that we were on the road, we had a breakdown and we did not keep our promise. So the idea is when we break our word, when we break our promise, to restore our promise, to restore our word, literally by speaking it or by writing it down, so that we could come complete with the past and then make a new promise, right? So there were a few places where I didn't keep my word in this walk. I didn't walk between Panama and Colombia, for example, because the police prevented me from doing it, okay? But there were other places where there were incredible triumphs. Walking for 30 days through the Amazon without any maps or compass. I was lost 10 times, just on rivers and just kind of feeling where I was. It was an incredible project. So I would like to bring your attention to my website, which is iamwalking.org, where you can go and actually write down your own prayers, declare your own past in a way that's totally anonymous and safe, and also declare your new possibilities in life. Thank you so much for your time.